welcome to the Shoals Triple Threat podcast, sponsored by Platinum Tier Events and Miami Ice. I am your host, Scott Whittle, along with my co-host, Blake Prestige and David Hill. And tonight we're joined in studio by Brooks Boys basketball head coach, Rusty Merks. We've got a lot to cover. We've been off for 2 weeks for Christmas and New Year's, and we've got a lot of games to recap, both in Colbert and Lauderdale County. Guys, how's it going?
It's going good. Had a good Christmas. Santa Claus came to the house, so a lot of good basketball games in the area. Got to watch. So, but Scott, you always ask us how our week's been. How was your week? How was your Christmas break?
It was good. I mean, I didn't do anything except go to a lot of basketball games, both college and high school. And you know, I'm not a big cold weather fan. You know, except for it's basketball season.
Right.
I just like to be in the gym. You know.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that. I got to watch the Brady tournament after Christmas, and I saw some good games before Christmas. And, you know, we talked about going to the big showdown between Wilson and Central. Yeah. We text back and forth, and I ended up going over to watch Coach Merck's team play that night. And what a mistake we made not going
instant
to
classic.
The way it unraveled. And I'm sitting there at the game, and I'm trying to watch it on the network, and sure enough, I feel like I'm behind because Blake said, "What a shot," you know.
Yeah.
You know, I said, "What happened?" He's like,
Freddie
Franks called game. You know, one of y'all. I said, "Dadgummit, I'm behind."
Yeah.
So I watched him make the three, and I thought, well, he won the game for him, you know.
Yeah.
And then I saw my buddy Danny Owens, the referee that was calling the game that night. I saw him, you know, make a call, and I thought, well, this game's not over yet. And you can't really tell the score, you know, unless they pan out.
Right.
They panned out, and I saw the score, and I thought, well, there's still a little time left. And boy, a lot ensued there at the end to make it happen.
Blake and I know for me, I think you were the same way. We both literally thought it was done.
Yeah, I thought it was.
And then you sent a message back and was like, "Guys, it's not over." I'm like, "Yeah, it was." I was watching that Bleacher Report, or it's the guys from Wilson. They do a live feed. They do a good job, and they were fired up, man. It was like, "It's a game." So I literally just turned my phone off, and then you had sent that, and it was a lot. It was a lot. That had to be probably one of the wildest endings.
Well, it ended up going into overtime, but to get into overtime, a lot had to happen.
Yes,
because they put a couple seconds on the clock after the Franks shot, and you know Wilson, you know, got the ball in, and they fouled him in the corner, and ended up calling an intentional foul.
Right.
Which might, you know, been a call that could have been questioned, but it was a bang play. I think you guys had one like that similar in the Lauderdale County game when Miles Warren kind of went on top of the guy, you know, trying to make a play on the ball, and so it looked a little more vicious than it was, and I think they called an intentional foul in that game too. But so as it turned out, the Central player, the Wilson player, hit him hand back in the back with the ball.
Correct.
And talking to the ref, he said, I didn't see him throw the ball, but I saw him get hit with the ball.
Yeah.
And so, much to the chagrin of Coach Krieger, he called a technical on the kid.
Yeah.
But Wilson still could have won the game. If they'd have made their free throws, they could have won the game. And then Central could have won the game without going to overtime if they'd have made both their free throws. So a lot happened, and really it kind of propelled Central to where they're at 3-1 in their area, which we talked about. You've said it, that they're gonna, you know, be someone who
they're gonna have a say.
They're gonna have a say.
Oh yeah,
I think it's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And they're showing that right now, you know, and they've won the games that mattered. You know, Brooks did beat them the other night pretty convincingly. Brooks is riding a 7-game win streak after their win against Hamilton last night. They had back-to-back wins both against Central, and then they traveled to Hamilton, I believe, and won yesterday. So they're playing well. So they'll obviously have a say-so, and they're sitting at 2-1, tied with Deshler, who they'll play on January 9th, I think Thursday. So a lot of things are happening. But what a game that really was!
Red-blue game. I said it. You know,
Red-blue. And I did pick it. My picks went down. We won't talk about those. I think Blake took the lead in our season-long pick 'em. I don't know. I I picked Colbert Heights boys and girls, and they both let me down against Sheffield. Sheffield's trending in the right direction.
They
in
are.
3A.
Big win against Central.
We'll try to pick our or make our predictions for boys and girls 3A area 15 and 16. We'll also pick 4A area 14 and others tonight on the show. But real happy to have boys basketball coach Rusty Merckx here. He's got the Brooks Lions sitting at I think 13-7. 13-7, and again a 7-game win streak, and a little rocky start. Maybe some games that he would say that they probably should have won or could have won that they didn't, but really tested his team. I think he took them up to Gatlinburg and played some really tough competition. So really testing his team, and I think that always proves dividends as you get down the road.
He also has our Miami Ice Player of the Week, RJ Gurley, on his team, and I think we're about to talk to him right now.
Yeah, we are. Let's get RJ Gurley, our Miami Ice Boys Player of the Week, on the phone and see if we can't ask him some fun stuff. We're joined now by our Boys Player of the Week. This week it was Brooks Ford, RJ Gurley. How you doing, RJ?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we got Coach Merckx here in the studio tonight, so just want to preface it by let you know that he is in here so he can hear what you say. But we're going to ask you some questions, and I want to start off by talking about how well I thought you played, not only for the whole season, but especially during this 7-game winning streak. What's it been like after the kind of a rocky start, where you guys were sitting right around 500 early on in the year?
It's been like a big change for us in the last 3 weeks because, like you said, it started off pretty rough, and we picked it up, and it was just kind of like a whole team shift. Everybody kind of changed the way they thought and picked up the energy, and it helped me personally be able to play better.
Hey RJ, Blake Prestige here. One thing I noticed, RJ, I got to see you guys play your first game coming back from the Gatlinburg pre-Christmas tournament when you guys played Rogers, and actually sat right behind your bench. And I was going to talk to Coach Merckx about this as well. But one thing I noticed sitting behind you guys' bench is it seemed like, there was almost a brotherhood with your team. It seemed like there was really good encouragement, team chemistry. Talk about your teammates and the chemistry you guys have.
So it was probably the first time, as a whole team, we were around each other for not long. I mean,
right.
Some people got annoyed with it, but at the end of the day, we were all kind of we were all so much closer, and it and as you can see, it helped us playing on the way back, coming back from Gatlinburg. Just the overall team aspect of it.
All right. Well, absolutely. Like Scott said, you guys are riding a 7-game winning streak, and obviously that Gatlinburg trip paid off. So best of luck to you guys the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Hey RJ, this is David Hill. One thing I want to know, when y'all have a big win, what do you feel like Coach Merck's best dance move is, to celebrate? Is he more of a gritty guy, or?
He's a keep the clipboard in hand kind of guy when we win. So
I got you.
Is it in one?
Both pieces of it, or just one piece of it?
On a win, it's in one piece, which is that's the best part.
No, y'all really excited for y'all and for the winning streak you've had. What do you feel like the key is for y'all to make sure that this is happening at the right time and you guys speaking at the right time? What do you feel like really, as you're moving forward, that you either A, have to improve on, or B, just continue doing a good job of? Obviously, you're having a lot of success right now. What do you feel like is a key ingredient to that? I know you've mentioned chemistry, but is there anything else maybe on the floor that comes to mind?
Yes, sir. I feel like one of the things we really need to improve on is just our big staple point from Coach Merckx is keeping the ball in the middle. And even through this 7-game winning streak, we struggled with it, but it's just been, like I said, it's been better. Everything's been better throughout this winning streak.
Right.
RJ, nothing really energizes a crowd like a 3-pointer or a slam dunk. Talk to me about what goes through your head, say, when you get a fast break and you're thinking about punching it down. What goes through your head on a play like that?
I'm gonna be honest. My mind's pretty empty. A big smile comes across my face.
Say that again.
My mind's pretty empty when I get that fast break. It's kind of just a smile on my face, and that's about it.
Okay, good. Because I just wonder, I feel like there's really nothing that can really pump a crowd up than when a guy is swinging from the rim on a fast break, slam dunk. I mean, I know your coach loves those kind of plays. So is that something you really try to poke steals and try to get a chance to do in games?
Yes, sir. I feel like I might do it a little too much because I get a foul trouble from it. But it's one of my parts for sure.
RJ, a couple more questions. How many clipboards do you think you've seen Coach Merckx break in your career? If you had to put a number on it, how many do you think you've seen him break? And I've got one more question too after that.
I have to go 9 or 10, probably.
9 or 10.
That's it.
Man, I'm about to see that budget, Coach.
Man, y'all lost 7 games. I figured that's 7 right there.
That's a guesstimation.
Okay.
One more question, RJ. Do you think Coach Merckx, as a player in high school, ever got a technical in a game? Yes or no?
I don't know actually. Probably not. I feel like he's real calm in basketball.
Okay, he definitely was a calm.
So what's the answer? Is that true or false?
That's actually false.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
It was actually wore the wrong jersey number, so it wasn't anything like I was a calm
Ah.
player. But wasn't anything where I lost my head or anything like that. So.
How do you wear the wrong jersey number? Is that a manager thing mistake, or is that player
I
decision?
think our bookkeeper just I told him I was wearing it and he forgot to change the number in the book, so that's kind of how it happened.
And I think the bookkeeper might have been Coach Ryan Robertson.
Yeah, Ryan Robertson.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it was Coach Ryan
man.
Robertson.
Rob catching strays.
I think it was.
Golly.
Come on, Rob.
RJ 10 on the board. That's a little extreme, I think.
It might be.
He said 9 or 10, so maybe we'll settle with 9.
That wasn't for the season though; it was for RJ's career. So.
Oh yeah, well.
Yeah, I can see 10 being. I mean, if you don't go through 3 or 4 in the season as a coach, you're not.
Are you really coaching?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So.
RJ, before we let you go, what are some goals that you guys have for yourself this year? Obviously, getting out of the area has got to be top of the list, but have you guys talked about that stuff?
Like you said, one more time for me.
What kind of goals have you guys talked about as a team? I would assume getting out of the area is one, but are those some things you might have discussed collectively, both maybe as a team with the coaches or as a group on your own?
So I feel like we haven't really discussed goals such as like winning area and stuff, but like it's more so being the best we can be at the end of the season and like peaking at the end of the season and always improving. So that's kind of like our focal point as a team.
Well, congratulations so far, both on your 13-7 start and the 7-game winning streak. Also, Bracey Invitational champions, beating 2 good 5A teams along the way, and then ultimately the championship game against Deshler. And a great performance by RJ Gorley with 29 points in the big area win at home against Central, followed up with 20 points against Hamilton. So you are our Miami Ice Player of the Week for Week 7, and we wish you the best of luck, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
That was RJ Gorley, senior forward for Coach Merckx and the Brooks Lions, who will play Deshler on Thursday. You got a game before that?
Yeah, we got 3 area games this week. We got Wilson on Tuesday, Deshler on Thursday, and then Hatton at home on Saturday. So.
Hatton, the Rusty Merckx Bowl at
That's it. Yeah.
Mike Willis Court.
You
You feeling?
That Haddon game will be happening.
Yeah.
The ice and
Chance of
snow's
snow,
gonna be
for
here,
sure.
baby.
Yeah.
No, come on, guys. I mean, but
I think it's coming.
That's the thing about ice and snow. You know, I went to Denver when Canute and them played Colorado
Everybody's
State.
moving right along.
It was snowing like crazy, and
Everybody's just
it was just like,
life goes
you
on.
know, yeah. Well,
Not here,
we
baby.
shut down for a week if we can get a flurry, you know. So hopefully that does not happen. We do not like to see the ball stop bouncing. We want to see these games being played, and I hate makeup games, and I'm sure you guys do too. So, really excited about that. You guys got any?
I was just going to say about RJ. I was going to talk to Coach Merckx. You know, I don't think just watching him play. I don't think there's any question as to why he's playing at a high level these last 7 games, and they're on this 7-game winning streak. So, you know, not to say, you know, y'all have a lot of great players. You know, you got Miles Warren, obviously, who's one of the brightest young players in the area. But, you know, RJ playing at the level he's playing, you guys on a 7-game win streak, you know, to me, there's no question. There's a correlation there as RJ goes, because he's got length, he's got athleticism. You know, there's a lot of good things he can do in the game for you guys.
Yeah, RJ's just so good in the open floor. You know, we like to get the ball out, try to get clean rebounds, and get it out and run it. He's so good in the open floor. If he can get it and attack the middle or whatever, really just comes down to him making the right play when he gets there. And over this last 7 games, he started making the right play more and started seeing the benefits of that for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed, to me, is impressive, and I feel like it is really good for y'all's team. Is, you know, you had a lot of close ones there early. You weren't able to pull out. Sometimes as that happens early on in the season, that can kind of feel like, well, that's just who we are, or we can't get over that. And then on the flip side of that, y'all have had some really big wins on your win streak, but you also gutted some close ones out. The Brewer game, I think, was a 2-point game. Deshler, I think you stretched it out, but he got to 2 points with a minute and a half left, I would say. What do you think kind of has been that clicking point, or and sometimes it isn't necessarily what you do. Sometimes it's just the way it all bounces, you know. What do you kind of feel like has been some of the differences between being able to pull those out late and win those? So then, like we were talking about the Morris Hill game earlier, like just some tough, the way the ball bounces, it just doesn't. Some games you feel like, man, it's not necessarily we did. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you just got to give the guys credit. Because like you said, you really don't know when you're losing those games which way are they gonna respond the right way, or like you said, are they just gonna say, well, that's who we are, and
Yeah.
that's how it's gonna be. And they've really kind of been, you know, kept their head up and kept grinding, kept coming to practice and getting better. And I think playing those games and losing those games early, I think if you look over the past 3 or 4 years where we've won a lot of games and had, you know, really good records, sometimes we kind of call it undisciplined success sometimes. And when you're winning games, it's hard to see the need to improve in a lot of areas. And I think when we lost those games, it kind of became, we just kind of kept telling them, like, the definition of insanity, you know, is keep doing these things over and over and expect a different result, you know. And
Right.
they really bought into it the right way. And like I said before, I mean, you've seen a big difference in the last 7 games for sure.
Yeah.
You know what, through this, not just the winning streak, but also the lumps you took, what have you learned about your team? And I noticed you've even thrown some zone out. You know, you're a big man-to-man guy. A lot of coaches are. What have you learned about your team during both the games that you dropped and this winning streak that you're on currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think we obviously want to be a good man-to-man team, but like ultimately, like, you want to win, you know. So we're gonna do whatever we feel like gives us the best chance to win. And sometimes, like with Levi inside, to be able to get him into games. Sometimes he doesn't play as much because of, you know, teams are running 5 out and he's got to get on the perimeter and guard. So zone's a way that we can get him in there and get a big body in, and he rebounds the ball really well for us. So he's made a big, you know. We've really just had a lot of guys step up through these 7 games in a lot of different ways. And obviously RJ and Miles, they get a lot of the credit for the points and that sort of thing. But guys just buying into their roles, like, you know, Clark stepping up, and he's played a huge role for us all year, and buying into his role, and Levi stepping up, and, you know, guys like Gunnar Johnson stepping up and making big shots at times. It takes everybody, and they've all done a good job buying in.
And talk about some of those guys. I know you mentioned RJ and Miles, and they get a lot of the headlines for the points they score. But I'm a big fan of Clark Warren.
Me too.
And I think what he does, I mean, he embodies the role player that a team needs, a winning team needs.
Yeah.
And you have to be, in order to be a role player, you have to be selfless. You have to be disciplined. You have to be of high character. And he seems to have all those things. And talk a little bit about him and what he's done. And also a guy like Tyson Roberts, he's really stepped up and shot the ball really well, both during the win streak and early on in the year. Talk about some of those kids.
Well, you mentioned Clark. You know, we told Clark back in the. Well, we went to a coaching clinic first off, and Alabama's assistant Ryan Pannone was there, and you go down there, and he's talking about Alabama's offense last year, and he's talking about how everybody notices, obviously, like Mark Sears and all these guys, and he comes out and tells us how, like, you know, if I watched him play, and I studied a lot of basketball, I didn't really think that like Pringle was that big of a deal, but when you listen to him, he's like Pringle made our whole offense go, you know, the way that he screamed and understood the offense and got people open and stuff like that. And we really, in the off season, we really tried to get Clark to buy into that same type of role, and it does. It takes a lot of character. And there was times when we told him, like, look, we really don't need you out here trying to shoot 3-pointers, and early on, you know, you get the eye rolls and some of those things, but he's really bought into it, and he's playing his role really to the best of his ability, and it's really been a turning point for our team for sure.
But you know, I've seen a lot of Brooks basketball teams, obviously, because I went to school there, played there, and I want to talk about Clark as well, because all great Brooks teams, and there's been a lot of them, but you know, everybody talks about RJ and Miles. You know, Clark Warren is a Brooks player to me, and I love players like that. Those are my favorite players. That's why, you know, we had Wilson here. I wanted to talk about Freddie Franks. You know, I love those system guys that just buy into doing their job. They don't want the credit. They're going to do the little things right. And when I watch Clark play, that's what I see. You know, you can tell he just wants to win. He wants to win. He's going to do, you know, whatever he's got to do to help the team be better. And I love watching him play.
Well, and I think it goes to those two guys we do talk about a lot. You've got to have those alpha guys, and it just goes back to the piece of the puzzle. I mean, if you didn't have those alpha guys and you had 5 just role players doing the dirty work, you're still going to have a really scrappy, good, hard-nosed team. But you got to have those guys go get you those baskets. But it's equally as important as you got to have those guys get the offensive rebounds, take the hits, set the screens. And it kind of, again, it's a puzzle. And talking about Alabama and talking about even you guys, when everybody is performing their role well, it's just a clean game and it's a lot more fun.
And then chemistry too. Did you notice that when you guys got back from Gatlinburg? Because I sat right behind y'all's bench against Rogers, and you know, which I know you guys came out on fire, couldn't miss, and that's always going to make everybody happy. But you know, Rogers takes the time out early, and everybody gets up off the bench. They're all high-fiving, patting each other on the butt. You know, it was really impressive. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I think the Gatlinburg trip for sure was a big, you know, which all we saw as coaches was kind of the games, and those honestly didn't go that great. You know, we played one really good team. I think they were ranked like number 5 in Kentucky. North Laurel had a D1 guy on there that was pretty good. We played with them for a quarter and got in foul trouble and kind of let that one get away from us. And then we played pretty bad, to be honest, in the last 2. But I think the guys getting together and going out through the town, and we got to kind of have a Christmas dinner there together in Gatlinburg, and did some dirty Santa and that sort of stuff. And I think they just kind of got together and came together there as a team. And I think that even though we didn't play that well up there, I think that really just kind of, like you said, against Rogers, when the ball goes in the hole, it makes everything better. But they, you know, I think that trip, I mean, even the parents that came to us afterwards and talked about how great of a thing that was. So I think that really benefited us a lot.
And they scored 29 points in the first quarter of that game. I mean, can you remember a team scoring 29 points in a quarter in an 8-minute high school basketball game? I mean, that's how hot they came out shooting the basketball.
And it wasn't like they were playing a terrible team. I mean, you know, Rogers is you know, pretty good team. So
Yeah, nearly beat you earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Rogers.
Rogers.
That was a
I don't think
3-point
Rogers
game at
gave up
Brooks.
29
Yeah.
points in their last game. I'm not really sure what
No.
happened in
Yeah.
that game. Why the
No,
score
they
was
didn't
so
go
low.
the game.
But
Have y'all been working on the four corners offense any in practice? I know you don't want to give away too much, game plan, and there's a lot of people watching, but do you guys work on that in practice, four corners?
I mean, we may have touched on it
Oh, really?
here or there, yeah, maybe.
Wow.
I tell you though, I don't want to leave anybody out. I mean, they're like we talked about, everybody on the team kind of, we got 6 seniors. One of those is Cam, and we didn't talk a lot about. We call him Zoomy. Tyson Roberts is, he's hit a lot of big shots for us this year, timely shots. And the thing about him is he can start the game 0-5, and he's gonna keep shooting it. Like he's truly a shooter that when you tell him like, eventually the percentages work themselves out. Like he's an old Brooks guy too. Like he's in the past, he gets in there and he watches a lot of our old games, and like he loves Brooks High School. And and Cam Harris is a guy that doesn't get to play a lot, but he still shows up to practice every day and gives us a look. And then Charlie Buttram's another guy that's just another true Brooks guy. He's probably the fiercest competitor that we have on the team, and we're always trying to find him a bigger role. But all those guys, and get nervous on these things. I'm not real good at it, and just want to make sure I don't leave any of those guys out. So they're all a critical part of our team for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely nice when you can have competitive practices. You talked about those guys that maybe don't get the minutes, but they still show up because you don't see a lot of those guys. So it's definitely admirable.
well, looking ahead, and I know you got a couple games before the Deshler game, but do you think playing Deshler like you got to play them in the championship of the Bracey Invitational, it helps or hurts? Because I know you've been through it, playing the Deshler girls teams, multiple times throughout a year, and you need to win the right ones. Now you got to go back to Deshler, to the Dome. What kind of confidence does it give your team confidence? Because you guys held an 18-point lead in that game, and Deshler had to be leaving the game with a feeling that they had a chance to win it down the stretch. I mean, the game got to be within a possession or two before Brooks pushed it out to about 8 or 9 toward the end with free throws. But is it an advantage or a disadvantage, or how do you view that?
I don't know. I mean, and this is probably another show, but I'm just never really liked the area tournament, and for that reason, I mean, 3 of the 8 teams in the Bracey were in our area, and then Central and Wilson are in our county, so we may see them in the county tournament, and you just have to play people over and over and over and over. And I just think if we could go to like a region play or something to where it gets kind of spread out, more meaningful, regular season games or something like that, and get away from this area tournament. I don't know. There's so many good teams in our area. I feel like more teams could advance if they did it a different way. And I know different areas are that way different years, but as far as playing them in the Bracey, honestly, over the last 2 or 3 years, I feel like our guys have been kind of uptight for some reason when we play Deshler in the big area games. And we've really talked to them a lot. I was glad to hear sometimes you don't think guys really listen, but when RJ talked about how we're just trying to be the best at the end of the season, I've really tried to get them to buy into it. We just really got 30 practices, before we get to the area tournament, because everybody's going to be there at that point, and I felt like they were just more relaxed in that regular. I mean, it was a tournament game, but they were more relaxed because it wasn't necessarily an area game or whatever. So I think that helped us a little bit early in the game, and hopefully, just the way that we handled 3/4 of the game there gives them confidence that they can do it in the area games as well.
Yeah, in that game, I mean, Brooks really pretty much manhandled Deshler for 3+ quarters. Probably maybe a little tighter, and it's a little tougher playing with the lead. Listen, basketball, we know, is a game of runs, and sometimes you can try not to lose games because you like, how could we possibly lose this game? I mean, and then teams make shots, and they use the shot clock in that game. I don't think the shot clock played a huge factor, but it certainly would make a difference in a game when you're up that many points if you wanted to really work the ball in the half court each possession to try to shorten the game a little bit with a big lead. But how was that playing with the shot clock? Did you feel any effects of that during the game, or did you coach any differently, or how was that?
No, I mean, I think it was, I'm not really a guy that's really big one way or the other. I don't think it impacts the game a whole lot. The thing I do like about it is it takes away from the, to me, there's a difference in stalling the ball. Like you get up 9-4 in the first quarter and you hold the ball and try to keep that lead or make people come out and guard you or whatever. And then where you've earned a lead through 3.5 quarters and you try to do it maybe the last 3 minutes. To me, those are two different things where you kind of won the majority of the game and you kind of earn the right to whatever. But it does take the stalling the ball away, which I am for. I had that done to me in high school as well, and it's just not fun to really just kind of takes the fun out of the game. And I know you play within the rules and it's perfectly fine if that's what you choose to do. But as far as the impact on the game, I didn't really, in our games, I think we had one possession maybe against Brewer where it got down under 10 and we kind of had to rush a little bit. But it does make you, the strategy there at the end of the games when you're up 7 or 8 with 2.5, 3 minutes left and you have to shoot it at some point. I kind of like the strategy that it brings in there in those situations.
Yeah, I think going back to that too, I mean, Deshler's denying everything. They're sending 2 at the ball. They're taking away your trail. They're taking away the middle. They're taking away your up the line. So it's a gamble, and when it's hard to play through because they're so athletic. And you do make it through that first layer, and you do get some layups, but can you make it through that first layer? And that's hard to simulate, and in those situations too, when other teams down, they're just kind of pinning their ears back, and to me, it's difficult if you're trying to figure out obviously attacking and playing fast is what got you a big lead, but then you're fighting in the back of your head. Well, you want to be conservative. You don't want to shoot too quick. So to me, that's the constant fight of a coach.
Yeah, it is. Really,
sometimes you overthink and it's hard to.
Yeah, you got to be disciplined with the ball. I mean, we kind of
and make good decisions.
Not bad stretches this season. We just have stretches where we just kind of get sloppy with it and turn it over. And against those guys, especially, you just gotta take care of the ball,
right?
And get the right guys shooting the right shots. And if you can do that consistently, you can have some success. But if you fall into the like you said, if you fall into the trap there, they're never out of a game because
they're not. No,
they make you make those decisions over and over. So it's
is the fight with the Warriors at Mike Willis court Tuesday night?
We got Wilson Tuesday at home. So
what's the rest of the schedule look like this week?
We got Wilson at home Tuesday, Deshler at the Dome on Thursday, and then Hatton, third area game of the week at home on Saturday.
3 area games in a week.
Yeah.
You're going to be a busy man.
Yeah, busy.
Watching a lot of film.
Well, the Deshler game, it's an important game. They're all important.
Yeah.
But Brooks dropped the game against Deshler at Brooks. So it's got to be a game that, and during the Bracy, I don't think that the students were there. I would expect an entirely different atmosphere for that game, and I'm sure you're preparing your kids accordingly. But they shot the ball really well, I thought, in the game when they came to Brooks, which I thought made a big difference in the game. They didn't close the game out with free throws at the end, maybe uncharacteristic of the team that they normally make their free throws better than that. But that has to be probably one of the bigger games. I mean, I'm not wanting to get you too far ahead against Wilson. We know they're 15-5, but they're 1-2 in the area, and you guys are tied 2-1, Deshler and Brooks, both trying to get up there with Central, who you were able to beat. They're 3-1 currently in area 14. But that's got to be a game that you guys really, really want, because of the fact that they came to Brooks and won. I mean, what do you take away from the game and back at watching film? What do you take away from it that you maybe can do differently in this game for a different outcome?
Well, I mean, Deshler shot the ball. They shot the ball really well at our place, and just kind of, like we said, we didn't make the best decisions. We wasn't playing as well at that point in the season, especially taking care of the ball. I feel like we've gotten better defensively also since that time, and rebounding, we've improved. I feel like we've improved, which that could change, that may all change Tuesday night. You never know what's going to happen, but we've, over the 7-game stretch since we got back from Gatlinburg, it's really, we've really kind of cleaned up some of those areas, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
Which another thing to take into account too, is Central and Deshler play Tuesday night. So if
Yeah.
you're Brian Pounders, you're sitting there. Central, who by the way is 2-1 in the area as well, correct?
3-1.
3-1.
Yeah.
They're 3-1 in the area. So,
Well, in context, to bring some context to the game y'all played on, they just got beat by Central,
yeah,
and it really felt like they came out with an edge about them. You know, that game at Brooks, it really felt like, you know, we sit there together. It really felt like that they were really hungry for that game, and obviously they're going to be hungry for that game, anyways. But it really felt almost like our backs are in the corner and we're coming out with all we got. So,
spoiler alert, that Deshler Central game Tuesday night is our Miami Ice game of the week, so we'll be talking about that one later. But yeah, that's, you know, if you're Coach Pounders at Deshler, you're looking at your schedule. He's watching film right now, I promise you.
Yeah.
He's watching because he's got a busy week ahead of him as well. So, you know, that could play into the mindset of Deshler going into their game
Well,
Thursday night as well.
if they go over to Central and win, they're 3-1, and the game, you know, say Brooks, you know,
Beats Wilson.
Yeah, they're both going to be sitting at 3-1, playing each other, you know,
for the final time in the regular season.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could, you know,
there's a lot on the line.
come down to, you know,
And that's
who
a
executes
Thursday
the
night
best.
game. So there won't be a lot of games that night. It'll be packed.
No doubt.
Well, I
I'll
think
probably
we're
be
already
there.
getting a lot of games moved from Friday to Thursday, so it may end
That's
up being
true. That's true.
a packed
It'd
night.
be the game you want to go to, though. For
Let's
sure.
go.
Well, Coach
Well,
Marcus,
The truth is, if we don't take care of business on Tuesday, it won't be near as big of a game.
Spoken
So that's
like a
the-
true coach. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we
I'm
expect.
next-
happy. I'm
next
happy.
game.
I'm not a coach anymore. I don't have to talk about
These guys have
You
no
get-
pressure.
you
They
get
don't know
no
what it's
pressure.
like.
You get
Yeah.
remote
We
now,
enjoy
so
our
yeah.
Christmas breaks.
It's easy to sit behind the mic and be critical of them
Listen,
and say,
the game you talked about in high school where the ball was frozen on y'all, were you wearing the right jersey?
I was wearing the
Okay,
right jersey.
okay.
I was.
when
And it
you
was
got
the team
pulled
we're playing
out,
Tuesday night.
who went into the game for you when Willis pulled you out of that game for wearing the wrong jersey? Do you remember? Who?
I think it might have been Blake, or was it
It
you?
was me.
Yeah. Blake
He
Blake
appreciated
did
it.
for me.
He appreciated
I
it.
think I sat there for the whole first half. I
You
believe.
did. You did. Yeah.
Probably lucky to get in at all. So
Yeah.
You know, real quick, touch on this. I mean, what's your philosophy on a player getting 2 fouls? Is 2 fouls foul trouble? Coach Oates talked about this one night in a presser. What is your philosophy on that? And is it player by player, or is it somebody maybe you can trust somebody a little more? Or what is your philosophy on that?
well, for me, a lot of what we do is trust related. So I think I would say it's player by player. You know, just whether we think they can get in there, and you know, maybe they have 2 foul. It's a guy that rarely ever fouls, and he's just got 2 by circumstance or whatever, and you can trust. Like Tyler Ashley's a guy that probably could play through 2 fouls, and then you know RJ sometimes kind of plays a little bit undisciplined with his hands and stuff, and maybe you know not that you don't trust the kid, but you know they need to prove that they can. You know what I mean? They need to prove
Sure.
that they can. That's in practice, and that's in the summer, and that's you know you take everything into account, but it's really just a player by player decision.
You know, Coach, I'm glad you mentioned Tyler Ashley before we got off the air here, because he had a stretch during the winning streak where he was really scoring the basketball, and he's a guy who's gonna take a charge. I'm sure he probably leads the team in charges taken. I'm sure you guys keep up with those numbers, but talk about his play. You know, he really, you know, was an impact player in some of those games. I mean, might have even been close to the top scorer in a few of those games.
Yeah. I told you I get nervous, and I leave obviously I don't know how you leave that dude out. Like he's one of our been coaching him since he was in, I guess, 9th grade, had him on B team and played varsity since 10th grade, and literally asked everything you ask him to do every day in practice, does it, and one of the few guys on our team that'll step in there and take a charge and sacrifice himself. And you know the point differences that you saw, we kind of made the switch from, we had Tyler's played point guard for us since 10th grade, and you know some people think that we want to play this slow, play in the 40s defensive type of game. We really want to get the ball out and run, so we made the switch to we felt like Miles gave us a little bit better boost in getting the ball up the court quicker, so we made the switch to Miles to point guard and Tyler off the ball there, and I think it kind of freed him up a little bit, and he started looking to score a little more, and he's really stepped it up. He's probably one of our defensive. We do like a little board at the end of each game, and he's won the defensive guy probably three of the last 4 games, and he's just a guy. Coach talked about Brooks guys earlier, like he's a true Brooks guy, does it right every day, comes to practice, and I honestly don't know how I left him out, and if he's listening to this, I apologize for sure.
I'll tell you, someone who didn't leave it out was my son Canute Wood. He watched the game and he told me, he said, they got a good team, and Miles and RJ are going to score a lot, but Tyler Ashley impacts the game, and he impacts winning. And when you got players like that, and Clark Warren, what's the ceiling for this team? I mean, what could you do, and how would you compare this team to some of the other teams that you've been able to have success with? You've been to Final Fours. What is the ceiling for this team?
Well, I mean, I think it's, I thought we had a really good shot last year too, but basketball is basketball, and you're going to have the potential of that night coming that the ball just don't go in the hole, or somebody gets in, bad officials make mistakes too, bad calls, you get like a guy in foul trouble, and that changes the whole complexity of the game, or whatever. That happens quite often to us, to be honest. You get guys out of the flow of the game, and happened to us last year against Hamilton in that sub-region game. And if we do things the right way, the way they're capable of doing it, I don't see any reason why this team couldn't go as far as they want to be honest with you. We try to look at what we try to tell them they got to do, and Coach kind of knows this. It's old Coach Willis stuff, but like we try to make sure we're doing 5 things, playing good defense, rebounding, taking care of the ball, shooting good shots, and then playing with maximum effort. And we feel like if we can continue to do those 5 things, then we'll have a shot against most teams we play.
Coach, we appreciate you being on.
Mm-hmm.
Best of luck to y'all throughout the rest of the way, and I'll answer the question because he can't coach speak. But Birmingham, that's the ceiling for this team. I think that's just my opinion. So,
well, they're right there in prime position to do so, and with 3 area games on tap this week, starting with Wilson on Tuesday night. Coach, best of luck in those games, and we look forward to covering the Brooks Lions, who will host the county tournament, the Loretto County tournament. Those brackets are available on our Facebook page, so check those out. So, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Coach Rusty Merckx from the Brooks Lions.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for having me on.
The Marcel Lady Panthers are off to a hot start this year, and at this time we're going to have on the phone head coach Cophia Rutherford. All right, now joining us on the phone is head coach of the Marcel Lady Panthers, Coach Cophia Rutherford. Coach, you guys are off to a hot start this year. I know you had a huge win Saturday night against number 1 ranked Scottsboro. And first off, before we get anything, I just want to say hats off to you guys. You guys have played Wayne County, Loretto, James Clemens. I'm leaving some out, but you guys have played a really tough schedule up until this point in the year, and I'm sure that was by design. How do you see that paying off for you guys, especially in the postseason this year?
Well, you can only hope that playing those really tough 5A, 6A, 7A schools, night in and night out, that when postseason gets here, that it's prepared you.
Right. Well, I'm sure it has, and that's one thing that, when you guys made the jump from 2A to 3A, I thought about was the speed of the game, and that's definitely going to help you guys in that capacity. One thing I noticed last year, when I was coaching at Rogers, we played you guys over Christmas, but one thing I noticed from that time to the end of the year is, and it's carried into this year, was Cadence Ralston really stepped her game up as far as being more aggressive on the offensive end. I know everybody defensively keys on Bell, but that's allowed other players around her to be more productive. So just talk about some of those players that have really stepped up. I know Bell has, big scoring games, night in, night out, but you have to have other players as well step up. So talk about some of those players.
Well, as far as Cadence goes, she's our only senior, and I just cannot say enough good things about Cadence. She signed a volleyball scholarship, and she could have said, well, I've got my volleyball scholarship, and I just really want to concentrate on that. But she has led this team. She comes to practice ready to work every day, and she's just a great kid, a great role model, and I just couldn't ask for a better senior leader.
Hey, Coach, this is David Hill from
Hey,
Lexington.
David.
You doing all right today?
Yes, I'm great.
So I know it's been a while since you were a head coach, and I know you've assisted the past couple of years. What do you feel like is kind of the biggest difference from the last year you were a head coach to now? Obviously, it's I'm sure coaching your granddaughter brings a dynamic as well, but I know you've had experience coaching your daughter. What do you feel like is the biggest difference? We always hear kids have changed or different things. What do you feel like is kind of the difference between then and now?
Okay. So the last time I was a head coach was in they might have had some flip phones,
Right,
but
right.
nobody had text messaging.
Uh-huh.
There was no social media, and like you couldn't just sit down and watch film.
Correct.
You know, if you got a film, you had to go
You had
borrow
gold.
a VHS, which was terrible.
I remember
Didn't
those
work
days.
half the time, and so it's just an entirely different world.
It is.
Yes. I mean, you could just sit down and pop up Huddle or NFHS and scout people.
Right.
And, 2004 to now, I mean, it's insane.
So, like I told you, I had went to Lexington, and y'all were in our area then. I played against your son, Jesse.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I was a year younger than him, if I remember correctly. But what's kind of the differences between? I think y'all were in our area at that time.
We were.
What is the difference between coaching Belle and coaching your daughter, or what's the similarities and differences in that?
Well, for one, I'm 63.
Right.
And Mamie gets so mad sometimes because she wants me to coach and be
What she
now
remembers mom being.
like I was then.
Right.
And I just have to tell her it's not happening.
Right.
I'm at a different point in my life. I'm on the other side of life. And, it's just a little bit easier to keep it in perspective now
Right.
than it was, 25 years ago.
Oh, I'm sure. I already feel that way after this half year off.
Yes.
I told my wife yesterday, I was like, I think I'd like to do it later on in life. Just with the different perspective that I feel like once you get out, it does kind of bring to the game and to really the most important things.
Yes, and I have 4 grandchildren, and like I said, I'm just at a different point in life now than I was then, and I'm just a little bit more able to realize and keep it in perspective that it's just basketball. It's a game, and it teaches so many important life lessons.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just a game.
Hey, I've got a good question for you. I talked about you being at Haddon. What's your best Sonny Connell story?
Oh, I can't tell it. No way.
What about your
No
third
way.
one?
Can't tell it.
Oh, I love
And
him.
so many of them involve my son,
Yes.
and then I would get in double trouble.
Right.
But now he's a hoot.
Oh my goodness, he is. No, well, I'm gonna pass it along, but I enjoy talking with you and really enjoy watching your girls play. And just like Coach Presage was saying, it's I know that you're wanting to be battle tested, and you've got to be battle tested to go play. There's maybe the elephant in the room, but I'm sure Lauderdale County is somebody that you're going to be crossing paths with, and those are things you got to be prepared for. And really, all the games y'all played so far will help you in preparation for your postseason. And
I hope so.
and just the week Bell had this week was just so impressive. 47 last night. I think it was 38 and maybe 30. I can't remember the exact. But congrats to y'all on a great start, and
Thank you.
and you got a big milestone coming up too, don't you? Potentially, aren't you close to 300? Is it?
You cut out on me. I couldn't hear you.
You've got a big potential milestone coming up, don't you? Aren't you close to 300 wins? Is that correct?
I have no idea.
Somebody
297 and counting.
Okay.
And if things pan out, that'll be on January 14th in a big area game against Sheffield when
I got you.
Mars Hill.
I have no idea. Where did y'all get this information?
The professor.
We got
stats guy.
off our flip phone from 2004. we just started adding them up, and it came up to 297 wins after your win against Scottsboro, the 68-67 victory that you had against them. And I know you guys will play Colbert Heights this week, and also Austin. Is that correct?
That's correct. We were supposed to have Soldier tomorrow night. That was a late add-on game, but they said not going to be able to come up because we don't know what the weather, and the freezing rain and temperatures are going to do.
Right.
But we do have Colbert Heights Tuesday and Austin on Saturday.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on the show. You guys are off to a hot start, and we know the expectations at Mars Hill, especially after the last few years, is to compete for state championships, and we're certainly looking forward to seeing you guys make that run in the postseason, and best of luck to you.
Thank you for having me on.
Mm-hmm.
That was Coach Cophia Rutherford from Mars Hill, and somebody in Northwest Alabama in girls basketball is going to be watching, when it comes to the games in Birmingham and the Final Four, because those are two teams, and I think Blake mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah.
That could easily win. I say easily. No, it's never easy to win them. You've won state titles, but they're good enough to compete for.
They are.
And one of them's not even going to get out of their own.
Both of them kind of have expectations to be in that position too.
Yeah, there's I've looked at it some. There's some other 3A teams out there looking at the entire state that are pretty good, but I feel like Lauderdale County and Mars Hill are the class of the state.
As far as those two teams go in particular, since we're talking about them, and we just had her on, they've got a tested schedule. I mean, they played Loretto really close. I mean,
early in the year.
They lost to Hill County at the beginning of the year. Do you think? I mean, Loretto County. I don't know. They've played the same level of competition. You said they're going to play Loretto.
I will say this:
They beat
Lauderdale County's played
Wayne County.
Loretto. They played Wayne County. They played Richland, who's their only loss this year. Those are three solid teams for Tennessee. They're playing Deshler later in the year. They played Mortimer Jordan, who's a really good 6A. I think they're a 6A team.
Good Hope. Did they play them?
They played Good Hope earlier in the year. So both teams have played have played some good bigger schools. I think it's big for Mars Hill. I've talked about this in the past. Lauderdale County, the speed, that's an underrated thing. I think people look at Lauderdale County and say, they've got really skilled players, they've got good shooters, they've got a system that they run. But, even when they don't have fast kids, they play fast, if that makes sense. Well, this year they got fast kids, athletic kids, and they still play, with that Lauderdale County tempo. So that was one of the things that I was wanting to see out of Mars Hill as far as them and Lauderdale County go with the matchup is, if Mars Hill could play at that speed with Lauderdale County. And, they beat Scottsboro last night. Now, we played them last year, and I can tell you Scottsboro plays fast. They play extremely fast. So that just shows me that Coach going out and scheduling these big games is paying off. And, I'm looking forward to that Mars Hill Lauderdale County matchup.
I am too.
In a winner-take-all neutral court game, probably at Wallace State.
Well, and they're probably
county finals too. Are they same side bracket?
They're in the county tournament. They're on the same side of the bracket. Yeah. So they'll probably play each other in the county tournament, if we're projecting ahead. But, if you're gonna ask me who I'm picking in that game, I'm not picking that game until I have no idea. It's just, but we'll wait and pick that one before they pull.
Bell Hill or Shiloh Marks. I mean, you need a bucket.
You take one, I'll take the other. That's the way I look at it.
I don't think we could either one go wrong.
No,
with either
no,
of those two
No.
young ladies. Both can really score the ball at a high level. Both.
Yeah.
I think Shiloh, who was our player of the week in week 2, she eclipsed 2,000 points. And
Yeah.
you mentioned how Bell's scoring it in bunches, for Mars Hill. But
To me, Bell's just so physically impressive. Like she is so strong looking, and she's how tall is she?
She's every bit of 6'1", 6'2", maybe. I'd say
And not a
6'1".
beanpole. I mean,
No,
most times
strong.
you see tall girls,
mm-hmm.
you see skinnier girls,
And she's got.
and I'm not saying that. Please don't mistake that as saying skinnier girls. She's just muscular.
Yeah.
She's got
Very
she's built
athletic.
strong.
She's got an IQ as well.
She does.
She's got an IQ as well, and that's the big. You got to think. Every night she goes out, she's getting double and triple team,
Right.
and she's still putting up 30 plus.
Yeah.
But to me,
47.
To me, the
Nice.
biggest.
You ever scored 47 in a game?
No.
No, the most of her score is 32.
That's a lot. 32 is
It
a
is a
lot.
lot. Now, to me, the biggest improvement she made last season was her ability to find the open player when she does get those double and sometimes triple teams. But
So they're young too. They only had one senior. I mean,
staying on the girls' side,
crazy.
we mentioned Deshler, Lauderdale County playing them coming up. I know it's they're sort of under the radar, because Deshler does it every year, but they're off to a 17-3 start.
I thought the same thing today. I was looking at their stuff and I thought, it's kind of been a quieter year and they're 17-3.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do every year. Reese Davis is having a big year for them.
Loretto, they've had some injuries, and we're not going to get to talk with our player of the week.
Yes.
That's Allie Weathers. She's came back from a high ankle sprain, from my understanding, and they had a little shocker alert here that they didn't play as well with her out. And she comes back in.
I think we'd be remiss not to also mention during the break we had a Lexington girl, Alex Howard, was our Lexington.
She also turned her ankle as well.
Yeah.
We want to recognize her.
Yeah.
We did put it out on social media, but also we had a Loretto Boys player.
Yeah.
Kason Bowie.
Yeah. I think that's how you pronounce it.
They're undefeated.
Yeah, 16-0.
Yeah.
So
Funny thing about these are two really weird things. Going back to talking about Alex and talking about Allie, they were both named volleyball player of the year through the Times Daily. One big level, low level, and they both had ankle sprains too. It's weird.
that is weird.
But Lexington has played really well. The Lexington girls, with her out, that's hurt them a lot. Thought Sheffield, they seem to be playing.
Sheffield girls got a big win over Central.
Yeah, and I thought Central's played better.
They've won 2 games this week, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
Central
Murphy.
It is.
Listen,
Murphy.
I watched Central play Lauderdale County live, and Central's got some athletes. They play hard.
And they're young.
They're young, and Coach, I'm going to give a shout out to Coach Murphy. He's getting everything out of those girls that he can. They played Lauderdale County. It never got to a running clock. And look, that's a win. That's a win against Lauderdale County.
Lady Trojans got a big win against Athens.
I want to talk about them. To me, that's the team that's under the radar on the girls'
There
side.
they are,
Nobody, I know Mackenzie Sears is having a phenomenal year, but, Muscle Shoals is sitting there. They've got a big area game this week against Hartsville that we're going to talk about later and pick. But Muscle Shoals Lady Trojans, I mean, they're quietly having one of the best years they've had.
And the Lady Warriors, Wilson.
And Wilson as well.
They're at 16-3.
Yeah.
They dropped one to Collinwood. Anytime you play those Tennessee teams, or
Coach Oakley, a little under the weather, couldn't join us tonight.
Yeah.
So we hope he gets to feeling better.
got some good girls basketball action going on around here, and
But we're getting to the point of the year where it's going to be interesting to see, Deshler we know they're always they're always going to make a run, in the postseason, and we
Has
talked
Wilson
about
played
that.
Deshler yet?
Wilson has not played Deshler yet. They
So that'll be interesting to see how
That will be interesting. That will
how
be
the
interesting.
Lady Warriors compete against.
Yeah.
Uh,
Coach, you want to talk about some of our big stat sheet guys?
Yeah, our
Girls for
stat
this
sheet
week?
stuffers. We'll start with our. Well, let's go ahead and start with the girls to begin with for our stat sheet stuffer, since we're already talking about them. We've got Belle again. She had 38 points Monday. Yeah, she scored 38, and that's awesome.
It was 34 in the first half.
In the first half, she had
So, I mean-
34. But then they go and they play a 7A school in Huntsville where she drops 30. Obviously 47 against the number one team in the state last night. Reese Davis, she's been on a tear, 26, 34, 22 across the past 3 games. Jordan Ricks for Colbert County, she's had 26 and 15 this week. Allie Weathers, our player of the week, she had 28 against Wayne County. Wayne County, I think, is ranked.
They're
Correct.
up there. Yeah, oh yeah.
But she had 28 against them. Has had 21 points in her last 4 outings. Really played well. And then as we move on down our list of our stat sheet stuffers,
Yeah, an interesting thing about that Loretto Wayne County game. Loretto got beat by Lauderdale County pretty handily the night before, and then Bacchus comes back, who's Wayne County's best player, and Loretto actually gets the big win. So that was pretty impressive for them. And then we had from Lexington, Brinley White had 10 on Monday, 24 on Friday, and her sister Olivia had 13 and 12 this week.
yeah,
Of course, Lauderdale County Shallow Marks had a big week. She had 17 and 25, and that's the girls' stat sheet stuffers for this week. So I know Scott probably wants to talk about a little boys basketball now, don't you, Scott?
I mean, Florence, continues to, lead the way. I think they're top team in the
Impressive.
entire rankings.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
14 and 3.
yeah.
One of their losses is to Huntsville. But Jalen Blackwell's playing really well. He had 18 points against Winfield, followed up with 15 against Deshler. He really had a lot of stats: 7 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 steals in that game. They really took it to Deshler. I mean, they were up 35 at one point. I think won by 25 or so. But Bryant James, a guy that on any given night can, really fill it up from outside. I mean, the kid's a lethal shooter. He had 9 points against Winfield, but had a big game against Deshler, hitting 5 threes. He finished with 21 points, and he's 44 points away from hitting that 2,000 career points mark that stems back to a career that started at Haleville, where he and his coach both came to the Shoals area, and
They got their own little big 3 going there. I mean,
They
we're,
really
we're
do.
the triple threat, but they got their own little triple threat out
so
there.
it's Jalen Blackwell and Bryant James.
Jalen Chandler, man.
Oh,
Jalen
Come on
Chandler.
now.
Yeah.
Jalen Chandler. That's
Jalen,
right.
take note of that, please.
Jalen Chandler.
Take note of that. with
We
Coach Whittle
didn't
there.
know if you knew his name.
I will say,
David and I know who he is.
I know who he is.
We know who he is.
Jalen,
We didn't know if you
Jalen,
knew.
I
We
know who
introduced you
are.
to.
Yeah, we introduced you.
I know
We even
who
had
you
him
are.
come
Yeah.
to the studio.
I was
And
on
you
a
guys,
serious
you
note.
guys, what'd you get Jalen Chandler for Christmas?
He got me a basketball coaching for dummies book. Is what he got me.
That's
So
funny.
thank you, Jalen. On a serious note, I really wish Bryant James could have played over the break in the Huntsville Classic.
That was impressive to me how well they competed
Yeah,
with Brian out.
I would have
against-
liked to have seen what
They
they
beat
could have
Hazel
done.
Green.
Yeah.
Who beat them the first game? I remember.
Bob Jones beat him, didn't they?
Yeah, who won all of it,
Yeah.
right?
They're in their area too.
Yeah.
And they've got a tough area.
They do.
Listen,
They do.
Bob Jones, who won the Huntsville City Classic,
Caden Rickard, big shout
is
out MVP.
1 and 2 in their own area.
Yeah.
And just to kind of show you, James Clemens. I mean, they're loaded in that game. So if you're out and about and you see the Florence Falcons are playing an area game, it'd probably be.
They got Austin
good.
this week.
It's
too,
going to be
man.
high
Go
level.
to,
It's
go
going
to
to be
the
high level
Coffee
basketball.
Gym and check them out and see. Jalen Chandler, he had 15 points in that game against Deshler. So all three of the big three in double figures in that game. And for Deshler, Aiden Woody had a big week. He had 10, 28 points and also 18 points this week. You know, and Eli Pounders, who was our week 3 player of the week, he had 27 on Friday and followed up with 24.
Hey, Marcel
on
gets the treat,
Saturday.
man. They better appreciate getting to watch Bell Hill and then Pounders the next
Pounders,
game.
I tell you what they better watch is Cam Keck and the Sheffield Bulldogs. Jim South has those guys playing.
He
really
does,
well.
he is.
They're in the same area, I believe.
Yeah.
And on any given night, I mean, I made the mistake of picking against them, and I will not make that
Huge
mistake
win
again.
against Central.
Yeah.
Huge win against Central.
They
Upset.
did. I mean, you call it an upset, but I mean, if you ask them, I don't know what they think about
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
definitely, the 31 points by Cam for the Bulldogs on Friday, and I see where Braxton Glaze had 27 points and Freddie Franks had 20 for Wilson, who will visit Brooks on Tuesday in a big area game. Bo Mitchell had 22 points and Will Robertson added 12 for the Pirates when they played Wilson this week.
Yeah, it's a big win for Rogers.
Yeah, big win.
And Black Taylor, who was our player of the week
He's good.
last week,
He's a
right
baby
before
too.
when we were on the Christmas
A
break.
diaper dandy, as Dick
Listen,
Vitale would say.
listen.
I didn't know he's a freshman.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I saw him live Friday night against Lauderdale County, and I'm going to say this. Of course, Lauderdale County's entire game plan was around stopping him, And Lauderdale
Right.
County, they put the Sears kid on for most of the game, who's a great on-ball defender. And, he had 18 points against Lauderdale County, which is nothing. It felt like he didn't score a lot in the game, but he has such an impact on the game. That kid is a player.
They won the game, right?
They won the game.
Yeah,
big area win to take control in that area. So
That's what I had one coach tell me. It was like, talking about playing them in the future in the next few years. They're like, Black will graduate. I was like, no, he won't. He's a freshman. He's like, no.
yeah.
Same thing for Bell Hill. I was at the Alabama game last night, and somebody was talking about her. We were talking about high school basketball, and I was like, yeah, I mean, she's crazy. She's a freshman. It's like, what? Like, yeah, she's young.
I did not know he was a freshman, and they're at the top now in 3A area, 16, and he had a great game. And then of course our player of the week for this week, RJ Gorley, 30 on Friday, 20 yesterday against Hamilton, their 7th win in a row, and a guy that we really could have probably picked this week, in Noah LeMay for Lexington.
Yeah,
I mean, he
you
was
had my
right
vote,
there.
Noah.
I think we were pretty split on we won't tell you who voted for who on that. I think it'll be easy to figure that out. He had 31 points
He did.
the other night, which is awesome.
He's
one
close to 1,000.
less than your career high.
That's right. That's right.
32. So
I had him as a freshman. He started for me as a freshman. He came out played in Central first game, and he started, and I was nervous for him as a freshman. He came out and scored 18 first game as a freshman. So Noah, he can put the ball in the hoop. That's all of our stat sheet stuffers. Lexington has some big games this week with area play coming up, revisiting Tanner and Decatur Heritage.
Y'all ready to do some picks?
Let's do it.
Let's do some picks. All right, we're going to start with, these are games Tuesday of this week, and our game of the week is also Tuesday night. We'll pick it last, but we're going to start off with Florence traveling to the Austin Black Bears. I'll go and get us started. I'll do my girls pick and my boys pick for this one. I'm picking Florence in both. I think Florence's girls, team that we probably need to spend more time talking on, but they're much improved this year. Head coach Blair Woods has done a fantastic job with them. They're very competitive against 7A teams, which they have to be. I think Florence, the Lady Falcons, take care of business at Austin. And I told Jalen Chandler I'm not picking against him ever again. I know Austin's guys I watched them in Huntsville play in the semis of the Huntsville Classic. Austin's guys, they played the first round game of the Huntsville Classic, and Austin's guys are very good, but I think Florence is too, so I'm going with the Falcons in both.
Scott, you want to go next, or you want me to?
I'll pick. Listen, I'm going with Florence also in both. I mean, Austin girls are struggling. They're at 4-14 on the season, and though they played a tough schedule, one of those was against Deshler. I just think the Falcons are a little more athletic. I like what Blair Woods is doing. I watched that game. They played against Shoals. Shoals did win that game, but I got Florence in both those games, and I think one of the brightest young coaches in our coverage area is Dylan Burleson.
Agreed.
And I think any team that he's coaching, I'm picking. So I got the Florence Falcons on both games.
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to Jamal Anderson. Do the Dirty Bird. We're going with the Falcons. I remember Jamal Anderson,
Of
Dirty
course,
Bird.
running back.
I do.
That's right.
Number
That's
32, the number of points you scored in
Oh, there we go. There we go.
You should have never said that. You should have never threw that number out there. 'Cause
I know.
I mean, that's impressive. I scored 32 with my sophomore year at Deshler. I mean,
What was your career high?
no, that was my
That was your
For the
career
season.
high?
for the season.
Season.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have
Oh,
Marty
whatever.
Summerhill, Corey Donnelly, Scott Thompson. I mean, we
Yeah,
were
we're
loaded.
Yes.
We were loaded. But that's for another show.
Also on Tuesday night, we've got the Wilson Warriors
Big
traveling
game.
to Brooks to the Jungle in a big area game. Wilson Lady Warriors off to a hot start, 16-2. Brooks, Coach Copeland is. We've said on the show that's going to be
And a rebuild.
a 3 to 4 year rebuild. They're playing hard, doing a good job. I think Wilson's going to be too much for the Lady Lions in this one, so I'm taking Wilson in the girls' game. On the guys' side, we've had Coach Krieger on the show. Wilson's off to a hot start. One of the better Wilson teams we've seen in quite some time. He's doing a fantastic job there. I think Brooks, the level they're playing at is just they're playing at a high level right now. I really feel like they're the best team in the area right now, so I'm taking Brooks in the guys' game.
You want me to go?
I can, doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, so far we've got mirror picks in all these games. We all took Florence,
Here comes the curveball.
and coach is taking Wilson on girls and Brooks on the boys, and I too am going to pick Brooks on the boys side. I think they're just a little head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in the area at their best, and that's what they're playing right now is at their best with the 7-game win streak. So I got them in a pretty easy win there at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest with you. I feel something is going to happen in the girls' game, and I think Lily Willingham and Ariana Santiago are going to step up and have big games, and Brooks is going to win that game.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people are probably going to think I'm crazy, and, I'm probably going to be one that even thinks I am a little crazy for saying that, but I think that when they play their best, and she's had games where she scored up to 20 points in a game, Willingham, and Santiago, when she handles the ball and is engaged both on the offensive and defensive end, she can impact the game, in ways, and can be the best player on the floor.
She can.
And I think they're going to get that upset win. They're going to win the game. It's going to be close, but I think they're going to get out to a hot start, and somehow Copeland's going to have them hold on.
Well, I did not have that for the girls. I got the Lady Warriors beating Brooks. For the guys, I'm going with Brooks as well. I think they're a little more battle tested, maybe. Wilson can shoot her really well, can come in hot. When I picked Wilson to beat Central. Central beat them. When I picked, there's another one, I picked opposite, and Wilson ended up winning. So Corey's probably going to be excited that I'm picking Brooks, because I feel like everything I usually pick kind of goes the opposite.
Yeah.
But then that moves us to huge area rival game with Sheffield and Colbert County.
It's not an area game, but it is an old school Colbert County.
It is an area game, isn't it?
No, Sheffield's in there with Marcel.
Okay,
And, yeah.
okay.
But this is an historic Colbert
Rogers
County.
and Lauderdale County and Colbert County are together in
Yes.
3A.
Yes,
That's right, that's right.
3A area is 16.
Yeah.
But
They're
this
3A
one-
area 15.
That's
This
right,
one will
that's
be
right.
a fun one. because, you know, probably not so much nowadays, but I'm sure back in the day, this was a big rivalry, Sheffield at
It
Colbert
still
County.
is, man. It'll be packed.
Yeah, it will be. And
I know films like that I have watched
Yeah.
in the past few years. If I were to get that game, the place was
oh yeah,
literally.
oh yeah, and it's
was
going to be
standing
at
room
Colbert
only.
County, so I'm sure they'll have a big crowd there. I'm going to go with home court advantage in this one on both of them. I think in the girls' game, I think both teams are trending. Both teams will be really athletic. Both teams are better than they've been the last few years. I'm taking Colbert County in the girls' game, and let me say this about Colbert County's guys: it's not just the Black Taylor show.
Yeah.
They got other kids, and we're going to highlight them, you know, in future weeks. But I think Colbert County, home court advantage, Black Taylor. I know Sheffield's trending. They had a big win against Central, but I'm taking Colbert County in both, boys and girls.
Me too, Colbert County Indians, girls and boys.
I've got Sheffield girls beating Colbert County girls. And
Is it because they're purple, or it has nothing to do with it?
Colbert County girls have, I don't want to say they've been struggling, but they've dropped a few the past couple of weeks, and Sheffield's kind of trending up. Boys wise, I think it'll be a really close game. I do got Colbert County winning, but Sheffield's playing well, boys wise
They
too.
are.
Then we got the borderline battle.
Borderline battle, Lauderdale County going to Loretto. Hats off to Lauderdale County for going up across the state line to play this game. I think this will be beneficial for both teams. You know, it'll be beneficial for Lauderdale County because both Loretto's boys and girls are really strong teams. And I think it'll be beneficial for Loretto because we just play a different style down here than they do. I think it's more physical the way we play down here.
Yeah.
You know, in the girls' game, I watched that Lauderdale County and Loretto played last week. I watched that entire game. I think Lauderdale County just plays a little bit too fast for Loretto. But now Loretto's got potential, obviously. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be close. I'm going to take Lauderdale County in the girls' game. In the guys' game, you know, Loretto's guys are very impressive. I got to watch them over the break as well. They're really big. They're skilled. Lauderdale County's got a young team, very talented team, a team that's overachieving. They're doing a great job. Coach Owens is doing a phenomenal job with that young team. I think Loretta's going to be a little bit too much for them there. I'm taking Loretta in the boys' game.
Before I make my pick, you said you watched the Lauderdale County Loretto girls game. Was Allie Weathers in that game?
She was.
She 100%? I know she had the ankle injury.
Well,
So-
you know, I don't know if she's 100% or not. I can't tell you that. And I can tell you too, Loretto played a lot of games. I think there was one day up there that they played 2 games in a day, so that might have had something to do with their, you know, the
Performance.
speed. Yeah. But I think Lauderdale County's playing well. They're really tough. So yeah,
I'm gonna take Loretto girls to hand the first loss to Lauderdale
It'll
County.
be the second
Okay.
loss.
Okay.
Richland got 'em.
Richland beat them. Yeah.
Richland beat them. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Loretto at home will be too much. I think Weathers will be a little better. You know, coming back, she's had a game or 2 under her belt since, you know, being out those 2 games with the ankle. And I do like what the boys have done for Lauderdale County. I mean, they're going to have a good matchup when they play Rusty Merck's Brooks team in that 4 or 5 seed game in the Lauderdale County tournament's opening round game. But I think Loretto's going to be too much for them at home. Too much size, too much speed. I got Loretto boys in that game as well.
Yeah, boys wise, I got Loretta. I think going back to what Blake said, just the youth of Lauderdale County against a really mature, physical Loretta team will be too much. Girls wise, I'm going with Lauderdale County. But it'll be a toss up. See how Loretto responds to, you know, having been beat by them, and a lot of times being able to handle that pressure is unique. So they've kind of had a taste of it nearly a week ago. How will they respond and handle their pressure?
And then Muscle Shoals has a huge area game Friday night at home. The Hartsville Tigers will roll into Muscle Shoals, and this is, if you're a basketball fan for both the boys game and the girls game, this is going to be quality basketball in both those games. I think in the girls game, I think if you'd asked me preseason, I would have said I'm taking Hartselle in this one.
Yeah.
Hartselle has a strong tradition of good girls basketball teams. Coach
Amber
Amber
DeLine
DeLine does a great job with them, and they are solid this year. But, I think we look back to when Muscle Shoals made that comeback and beat Deshler. We thought it was an upset. I don't know if it was an upset. Muscle Shoals has been solid.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the Lady Trojans in the girls' game. I saw Hartselle's guys play down at Priceville over Thanksgiving early, and I'm sure they lost a lot. They didn't look like the typical Hartselle team. However, they have improved. I think they're going to come in and give Muscle Shoals all they want. It's an area game. At the end of the day, I think Muscle Shoals, Coach Barker, I think they've got too much for Hartselle, so I'm taking Muscle Shoals in both the girls and the boys.
I'm very similar to Coach. I got Muscle Shoals girls winning. Mackenzie Sears impacts the game in so many ways. She can handle the ball. She can score with her back to the basket. She can rebound. She can defend. They got some other pieces around. They can shoot the ball from outside. They pressure you.
Yeah.
Full court. If they can handle the ball, sometimes in the game against Florence, Florence's press got to them a little bit, and they made some uncharacteristic turnovers. But I think, having the best player on the floor is always, a big factor when you're playing these type of games, and they will have it with Mackenzie Sears, and I got them winning it. And I think the boys' game will be more competitive and closer. But and when Hartselle's playing their best, I watch them play Deshler and run them out of the gym by 30.
Yeah.
But then they, dropped a game to that Brewer team that I saw play, in the Bracy tournament that Brooks beat on their way to winning the Bracy Invitational. And so not really sure which Hartselle team will show up, but I do know the athleticism of some of the kids from most Shoals. They play above the rim. They'll be well coached, and I think they being at home in that environment, they win the game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going with the Trojans for both sides. I'm getting a phone call. My son has got an iPad, and he's calling me, talking about Mackenzie Sears. Scott was gracious enough to fix us up and my son up with going to a game, and the Sears family was just first class and very, very kind and friendly. I know they don't have a ton to do with their pick'em, but the Sears girl does have a ton to do with my pick'em for Muscle Shoals winning that game, and I'm going with boys and girls Muscle Shoals, which gets us to the triple threat game of the week.
Tuesday night, Deshler Tigers traveling out to Central Heights to play the Central Wildcats.
First place up for grabs. Area game, which most of these games we picked this week are area games. That's just the point of the season that we're in here. And, area games, teams play different in area games. There's most of the time there's a game plan involved. Kids recognize the importance of the game. How about we do this? Let's pick the girls' game first, and then we'll pick the guys' game second. I'm going to go with Deshler in the girls' game. However, I was very impressed with Central, Coach Murphy, the job he's doing there. Central's going to compete. This is not going to be a game to where Deshler's going to come in and just overwhelm them and they're going to quit. They're going to compete for 4 quarters. So I'll pull the Lee Corso here. I think Deshler's going to win, but it's going to be closer than the experts think.
Yeah.
I think Central's going to compete because that's what they do.
I don't know who the experts are, and certainly I'm not one of them, but I don't think it's going to be very close myself. So maybe I won't be an expert. I also did pick the Brooks girls, so I may take some grenades for that, but I'm fighting for you guys.
There you go.
But I got Deshler, impressively.
I got Deshler too.
On the guys' side, this is one that
rematch.
Central won the first one in the Dome, and I think we all agreed, that area is going to go through Central. Central's going to have something to say about it. I will say this about Central: when they have a successful season, which they do a lot, especially for home games, they have a great crowd. It seems like everybody in Central Heights comes out to their basketball games. So there's going to be a huge crowd there Tuesday night for them. Deshler have a big crowd as well, so it's going to be a great atmosphere. I think the Central student section, they're going to have the oars out. They're going to be rowing the boats. I'm taking, again, I'm going to say this, in these big games we've had, I'm taking competitive spirit, and I'm taking Bryant Hamback as the leader of that Central team. I think his competitive spirit is going to be a huge factor in the game. I think the crowd's going to be a factor in the game. I think the fact they're playing at Central and their gym is going to be a factor in the game. I'm taking the Central Wildcats over the Deshler Tigers in the guys' game.
I am going. I'm going opposite of that. From afar, it has always seemed to me that Central plays best at the Dome, and it seems like Deshler always repays them back, and they're both really good home court environments. But that's just what I've seen from afar. So I'm going with Deshler coming in, getting a little revenge at Central.
Well,
Uh-oh.
we'll need this here. So when I picked in the big game, you know, the red blue game, I said they were going to row their boat into Zip City and get the win, and it ended up being a battle.
Oh yeah,
It did.
I mean, they might have used some of their oars toward the end of that game to fight off the Wilson Warriors, but you know, given that you picked Deshler and you picked Central, I guess I got to make a decision to break the tie here, and look at that jersey.
That's a sweet jersey.
Not happening.
Oh, whoa.
Deshler gets revenge, gets the win. Too much Garrett Reed, too much Aiden Woody, and Joby Jackson.
Yeah.
They've just got guys coming at you. The Minshew kid can shoot it. I like Deshler getting the revenge and taking the lead there at 3-1.
there you go. Central,
Setting up for a Friday night clash. Or Thursday night.
Central student section. That's Scott Whittle there, who just tossed the Central jersey. I mean,
I didn't toss
the
it.
disrespect.
I wadded it up.
Central student
it.
section, Central Barstool.
He said he wanted it up.
The disrespect for this Central jersey that was just shown by our host.
It wasn't disrespect.
So
it was just a lack of belief in them winning this game again. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, they're playing at home. Their crowd's going to be into it. They're going to have the inflatable boats or whatever they have, you know, and I love it. But too much Deshler. There's just no way they let
It'll be fun.
they let Central beat them again. It's just not happening.
It's
I
gonna be a
love
fun
Josh
week.
Bryant. You know, and that's a big dude. If he was here, I'm not sure I could pick against him. You know, but
Coach
you know,
Bryant was
maybe
not
if they were
supposed to
arm
bring us this
wrestling,
jersey.
I might take Central. But listen,
Coach Bryant, did you see what he just did with the jersey there?
who's not? Do they have a number 5? I want to apologize.
Right,
I don't know
handbag.
number 5. Is it handbag?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank God. You know, thank God. But hopefully, number 5 has a good game in that game if he does. But I did graduate at Deshler. And,
I know.
I picked against them when they played Brooks, and they
Not gonna do it
made
again.
me believers. You know, they
There you go.
can shoot the basketball. I like them.
Well, it should be a fun week.
Yeah, it
Looking
will.
forward to it. So
Thanks again. Seriously, all our viewers and supporters out there.
We've missed you.
We ask you to like us, subscribe to our page on YouTube, and like our Facebook page. We try to put out the scores and the results of what's happening both in girls and boys across the Shoals area, and we just want to thank you for your continued support, and thank Platinum Tier Events, our presenting sponsor, and of course
Absolutely.
Miami Ice, and
Jeremy's
congratulations
MVP.
again to our players of the week for week 7, and we look forward to week 8 coming back at you next week.
see you guys.